A new documentary, The Dissident, tells the story of the brutal murder of Jamal Khashoggi, the many characters internationally that were involved in that. And so joining us now to discuss is Bryan Fogel. He's director of The Dissident, Academy Award winner himself. Might recognize him from Icarus. Bryan, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, great to be speaking to you today, and thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Bryan, I had to have you after I heard you on Joe Rogan's podcast, and I was really just stunned because I watched your documentary Icarus whenever it came out. I was, blown away by it. And then having watched the trailer and now the film of your documentary, The Dissident itself, it's incredible. It really feels almost like an action film, except it's real life. And I was really stunned by how it was, I wouldn't want to say shunned, but it wasn't not picked up by some of the biggest distributors in the media business, largely because, due to my suspicion, I'm sure yours as well, because of financial ties to the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. Could you just detail, first of all, your movie, which I want everybody to go see? I watched it on Amazon Prime, rented it for $19.99. It was absolutely amazing. But just tell us about that process, about how it was essentially shut out from all the major distributors on streaming.
Well, look, it is the film is available in the United States and Canada on PVOD, which is considered paid video on demand. So you can go on iTunes or Apple, Amazon, Rental, Comcast, DirecTV, Vudu, Fandango, etc. But it's not available on the major streamers under the subscription services. That said, we're being told that we're doing very well on that platform, and the movie has been trending very well. So that's very positive, and we have a great distributor with Vertical and Tom Mortenberg and Briarcliff. But in terms of the movie being shunned, we went to Sundance with it a year ago. We went and did another 6 months, but had an incredible response. Amazing reviews from the critics, and not a single offer to acquire the film from one of the major global distributors. And I think it just speaks to the environment of fear among these big companies that are doing business with the kingdom or want to continue to do business with the kingdom or keep ties open to the kingdom. And I think also, under the Trump administration, there was such a hostile environment towards media companies. There was such a hostile environment among, coming from the Trump administration for any company that might, not align with those administration's, policies. And in the case of Trump, in terms of the Trump administration, he has spoke repeatedly of being able to help cover up the murder of Jamal Khashoggi. Bob Woodward's book, Trump came forward and said, I saved his ass. And even in the final days of the administration, I believe he was successful in pushing through another $500 million worth of arms sales to the kingdom. He called on the Justice Department to grant immunity to Mohammed bin Salman against any prosecution in the United States for the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, or also for the attempted rendition of another Saudi living in the country. So I think that all played into these global streamers' decision not to acquire the film. But that said, we're available in the U.S. and Canada, and hearing that we're doing well. So I'm hoping that many people will come and find the film and see it.
Well, I'm really glad to hear that, Bryan, because it really is an incredible film. And if you loved Icarus, you're going to love this one. It's got the same level of just like pacing and just like jaw-dropping, kind of just like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. This is an opportunity I want to make sure people can understand. This isn't just like a rehash. You have a lot of new information in here around the murder of Jamal Khashoggi, but also around the, Saudi bot system, targeting Saudi dissidents and more. Could you just outline that for us, and why MBS and the Saudi kingdom views people like Khashoggi and other dissidents as such a monumental threat to their regime?
Well, in the film, over the almost 2 years of making this, was able to obtain a lot of additional evidence, video footage, photographs, and even the transcript from the government of Turkey. The Turks were incredibly helpful to me, and also the interviews that are in the film. None of these officials have spoke before, so there's actually a lot of new information. And yes, we did craft the film to feel and look, and the pacing of a cinematic thriller. Wanted viewers to feel that they were watching The Bourne Identity rather than a traditional, whatever you might want to call it, documentary. And so to that extent, there is a wealth of information that I think viewers are going to find shocking, in its detail. One of the things that the film gets into is the Saudi control of social media and how they have exploited Twitter and Facebook to basically push forward the public narrative in their country. As Twitter has such a massive infiltration in Saudi Arabia, the statistics are somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 out of 10 Saudis use Twitter for their news and for their information, because freedom of speech and freedom of press is not allowed in the kingdom, and dissenting thought is enough to get you arrested or thrown in a jail. And what we see in the film is essentially that sending the wrong tweet is enough to be murdered in the case of Jamal Khashoggi, and that the Saudis have employed Israeli cyber hacking technology to go after dissidents by hacking their phones or devices. They even went after and hacked the phone of Jeff Bezos, who owns the Washington Post and arguably, employed Jamal Khashoggi. But I think it shows the extents to which the kingdom will go to repress and suppress any thought that is not positive towards Mohammed bin Salman. Interestingly, there was a story about the dissident in the Washington Post yesterday, and the story was about how the film has been relentlessly attacked on Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb. If you go on those sites, you'll literally see that of like our 9,000 reviews on IMDb, they're all either a 9 or 10, and then all of a sudden we have 2,000 reviews of 1. And then they've went and left about 50 or 60 written reviews, and then the same Saudi trolls have went and rated those reviews positive or helpful so that they're the trending reviews. And all of these 1,000 reviews of 1 came in like the last 3-4 days. So it's astounding. We went from 99% audience score on Rotten Tomatoes to 67% in a matter of 4 days, as they added 2,000 reviews of 1. And apparently I'm being told that Rotten Tomatoes is looking into this at the moment. But I mean, this is this is not only art imitating life. I mean, everything that we get into in the film, the Saudis are doing against this film, be it on Twitter, on platforms, basically trying to give the film bad reviews to keep people away from watching it. But then if you look at our critic score, you see that we're at a 97%. So it would be humorous if it wasn't so also serious.
Yeah, I'm laughing, but it's not a joke, which is that this is a sophisticated state-sponsored campaign against your film. And Bryan, I just want to say you're a very brave man. You've taken on the Russian government, and now you've taken on the Saudi government. I can't wait to see what happens next. But I want everybody to know I will be going on and rating it at 100% on Rotten Tomatoes after this. I hope everybody else goes and does the same thing. That's the only way that we can counteract this menacing behavior. Bryan, thank you so much for joining me, discussing the film. Again, I hope that everybody goes out, rents it, wherever you can get video on demand, because it's an amazing story that you tell, and I appreciate the work that you've done very much.
I really appreciate having you on, and made the film to fight for justice for Jamal, and what that means is, I think, reassessing the U.S.-Saudi relationship. We just can't continue selling billions of dollars worth of weapons to a kingdom that's willing to murder and dismember someone in its own consulate, or jail human rights activists such as Lujan al-Hatul, who was just sentenced to another 6 years in Saudi Arabia simply for advocating for women's rights in the country. So, I don't think there's going to be justice for Mohammed bin Salman, but I think that there can be real change in the country, and hopefully under the Biden administration, we're going to see that. He's certainly indicated that he plans to hold the kingdom responsible, and I'm optimistic that so many who are suffering in the country under human rights abuses will soon find some freedom of speech and hopefully be released from prisons.
Yeah, that is my hope as well. Thank you, Bryan. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. One more Rising for everybody right after this.